Hey, what's up everybody? What's good? It's DJ Phanatic Beats, content contributor for liveoffbeats.com. Basically, today's video is about using the stamp tool in FL Studio as well as for chords and for scales, and I'll show you how to do that. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at DJ Phanatic or Instagram at DJ Phanatic Beats, and Phanatic spelled Phanatic. Alright, let's jump right into it. I created some really good chords using the stamp feature. And you know what stamp feature is in FL Studio? It's good for people that don't know how to make chords very well, or not as skilled in music theory or melodies and stuff like that. I remember back in the day, just taking a bunch of courses in music theory in college, and I was extremely confused. And I mean, I got through it, but I took advanced music theory, and this feature is just really good. Especially you're not, skilled with, playing keys and piano and whatnot. This way, you can kind of just see the notes. It's just crazy. So let me show you a chord progression, like a little melody that I created using the stamp tool, and then I'll show you how to do it. First, what I'm going to do is change the scale back. So to change the scale, you can always go to drop down, go to helpers, scale highlighting, and I had it as a I did a minor. Actually, let's do major for this one. There we go. Cool. So this is in major E natural, E major, and these are triads, but basically 3-note chords, and these are 7th chords. So let me just play what I created just using stamp tool. And what's cool about this, all you have to do, you can go to the drop down and then go to stamp, and then you choose the type of chords. Notice it says melodic chords, and don't worry about advanced. These are extremely advanced. You got augmented ninth, 9 sustained, 4, and you got the minor major 7 at 11. It can get pretty crazy. So these are, you can experiment with these chords. Don't feel afraid of them, but I don't want to jump into those just yet. These are your standard chords. So let's go with a what are we in? Minor. I think we're in minor. No, major scale. So let's go with a major, and that is a 3-note chord. So you can, let's put it here. And sometimes I'll show you when we run across that. So here it is. All you do is just, notice how as soon as I click, 3 other notes showed up. And the drawback of that, though, notice when I hover over it, all blue, like the blue highlights all those notes. You can't separate these notes. You move it around, it's all together. That's the only drawback of stamps, but I can show you a workaround of that. So let's hear how that sounds. Sounds good to me. And then you can kind of play around with the notes and move them around separately. So I'll show you that in a moment. So basically, you hit major. A quick way to do this, the stamp tool is this little icon right here. It goes right to it. So let's try major 7th, which are 4 notes, like these. So let's put that here. And all of them are in the scale. So let's see what that sounds like. It should sound okay. Not really feeling it. Let's bring it down a few notes here. Now notice when I move it around, it's still a major chord, but it's out of the scale. The scale is actually all these light shaded lines. Those are the notes that we hit, and this is the root note, E. So I have an E major, but this is a major chord, but sometimes it's not in the scale. So a workaround of that is just use the chord as a reference, and then you can kind of shift the notes around. So I know I want this top note, and we'll move that up actually here to a note in the scale. here actually. And this one we can keep the same. And we'll move that one that's out of the scale up. And we'll delete the stamp because it really wasn't in the scale. And this should sound better. And let's see what it sounds like. Very nice. So you have these really lush chords, and these 7 chords actually remind me of like Pharrell. He used to do a lot of 7 chords. It has like this spacey sound, like this very musical, futuristic. 7 chords, man. So that is an example, and what I'm going to show you now is how you can use the stamp tool as a scale reference too. So let's click the stamp tool and go to we're in a major chord, so just go major, click on major, and anywhere we're using E, so E major, so we'll click that, and notice the entire E scale is present right here in these notes, and you can kind of use them as a reference. So let's just make that longer, and you can create your notes based on there instead of just using the light gray. And you can always duplicate that, control down, and stretch it across the screen or whatever, but make sure you bring the velocity down, so that way those notes don't sound, and you can just move it out of the pattern on the side. You can always do that, but it's good to use a quick way to build a scale, and that way your music is more musical, and it sounds like it belongs together. You know what I mean? It's nothing like having horrible chords and notes out of the scale where your music doesn't sound natural or appeasing to the listener. And the main thing of music is communication. You want to relate to your artists. You want to relate to artists that are going to record on your beat, sing on your beat, rap on your beat, or you want your audience to just enjoy the music. So having chords that don't make any sense and are not pleasing to the ear, kind of takes away from that. So let me show you some other examples. This was E major, so that's a quick way of making chords, and you can always just, let's get rid of this. You can always create some really advanced stuff. Hit the stamp tool. Let's go to advanced. Why not? Let's do a major 7th add 13 stamp. Now we're getting crazy. So let me show you. I think I want to add it here. It might sound just horrible. So let's add it here. And remember, in FL Studio, the last thing you did, the velocity matched the scale thing I did. So this is pretty much like an inverted scale, and I mean chord, and I don't want to use this one. Actually, let's just use it, see what happens. So what I'm going to do, I notice some notes are out of the scale. Sometimes you want that. Let's just play it and see what it sounds like. It may sound like garbage. Exactly, sound like garbage. So I mean, basically, it doesn't work, in a musical sense. So what you can do is actually kind of copy the scale, the chord, and make up your own chord. Now that's in the scale, and we'll see what this sounds like. Actually sounds pretty decent. So let me show you some other examples. This other pattern that I created, I did it with a pad. And remember, these patterns, you can change them with any sound. It doesn't have to be a pluck or a piano. It can be any sound, and it makes your music that much more creative. Okay, so I did it with a pad here, and this is actually, I think I kept it as a major. It looks like it. Yeah, because here's the scale reference. So I kept this. This is all E major, and these are actual 7 chords, all just random 7 chords that I chose. and I doubled up you know, the lower end notes to add like a little bass. So check it out. So what's cool about this, you notice when I hover over them, I can see every stamped chord. Now this one I built. See how I can separate them? It's the only thing about stamp, you can't separate the notes. But you can use them as references, and also great creative building blocks from the beginning, especially you got beat block and you don't know what you're going to create. You can start with some chords. And starting with these chords, I actually ended up making like a melody on top of it. So listen to the top end here. Yeah, so notice how I built the melody like right on top of that. And sorry for the stutters there. This is like a very heavy processing sound that I'm using for this example while shooting video. So, and then I also, if you notice, I built the lower end. I doubled up on the lower end notes, and this is what they sound like. So I kind of built a melody on top and like a doubled up lower notes from only just using these stamps. So I built around just using the stamp tool. This is actually a very advanced chord, because you notice I hover over it, there's like 7 different notes here. Wow, I'm not sure what chord that was. So using the stamp tool can be very powerful. And I think I had one more example where I built some chords. Yeah, so check this one out. Let me make sure that's the only one playing. Yeah. Now this was E minor, so I chose to do it in E minor. So you can change it, go to helpers, scale highlighting, keep it as E, but we're using minor natural, also known as the Aeolian. So click on that, every note's in the scale. Let's make this a long 8-bar. Show you progression, so I can just show you live with the stamp tool. This looks like an alter chord, because notice how everyone doesn't highlight. So sometimes I'll just take, this is what I started with. So I altered the stamp tool because sometimes it falls out of the scale. So for instance, let's do the stamp tool. Let's do a minor 9th, sure. And let's just randomly, it goes down. Let's go here. Let's see where that takes us. Get over there. And it looks like every note is in the scale, so let's see what that sounds like. And let's duplicate the 9th, but let's go down a note, if it lets me. To duplicate, you hold shift, left click, and let's go down 1 note. And it might be some notes out of the scale, so use this stamp as a reference. So for instance, all of these are in the scale so far, but notice this one's out of the scale. And bring this note's out of scale, so bring it up 1. And that one's in the scale. So we have the same chord in the scale. So let's delete that, highlight all these, and bring it to where we want it on that beat there, beat 6. And right here, that dun, dun, is like a small melody within the chord structure. Progression. See, I'm kind of going to repeat that melody. Let's keep the same chord here and change the ending so you can kind of build it. That's the note I want to hear, F sharp. So let's build from that, and let's stick with the minor 7th. I think that'll sound cool. So let's see what happens when I do that. So you can kind of notice how this is the note I wanted to hear. So we randomly picked the minor 7th stamp tool. So you can kind of keep that note, move that there, and notice this is out of the scale. So let's use this stamp as a reference. So let's bring it down one. The B is fine. The G, I believe that's a G, yes, the G is out of scale. So let's bring it down one. And let's see what this scale chord actually sounds like at the end on bar 8. Very nice. So there you have it. I showed you how to do different chords. You know, feel free to explore with this. Don't feel like you can just stick with 7ths and 9ths. Just go crazy with it. There's tons of different. Try all of these. Suspended 2. You don't have to know all this stuff, like what it is and why they call it certain things. That's traditional music that goes way back during the Beethoven days. So don't let the names confuse you. Just go by your ear sometimes, because a lot of producers have been listening to music their entire lives, and you can kind of hear what works and what doesn't work, especially with chords. And it's always good to start with like a simple instrument too. Piano is always good to start with, so you can kind of hear exactly what it's going to feel like, and then you can choose the sound. But these are great ways to have building blocks to build chords, and then you can build melodies around it. And it's actually very inspiring when you use this. It's a game changer. You know, I rarely use this because I like creating chords from scratch, but this is really good to like just learn from, and also, you know, for those that aren't good with music theory. And actually, I'm gonna jump into using these more myself, because these chords actually help your mind create further than what you thought you could do. And like, for instance, you go to advanced and look at all this. You know, some of these I don't know, to be honest. I know the minor 13. This, I don't know what that is. Minor 6, add 9. Okay, yeah, I know that. So anyway, yeah, you can kind of, these are very advanced sustained 4 chords, and you can kind of just use these as a reference like I showed you here, and then just move the notes to this in the scale. But there's sometimes you want to add a scale, but you know, use your ear and your best judgment based on, you know, whatever type of music that you're working on. And if it's feel good, you know, if it's feeling good, 9 times out of 10 is right. But you know, music, it shouldn't be any right or wrong, to be honest, but traditionally you want to stick in the scale, which is all these highlighted, you know, areas, because I, you know, did the stamp tool and chose the scale that we're gonna excuse me, not the stamp tool, the helpers and scale highlighting. So I chose E minor natural. These other ones I did E major. So let's hear all the patterns created with the stamp tool, just to show you how powerful it is. Very musical. It may get some pops here. Wow, I really like that progression. And last but not least, the one we just elongated and made it longer. Very nice. So you can see, those are just one scale. That's just E. The scale of E, 1 and 2 in major and 1 in minor. And you have, look at all these different notes, different scales you can choose. You can do all these different scales. You can transpose this to a whole nother scale. You can change major to minor. Of course, you have all these other scales that you can just that are really different, but usually you just use minor, natural, major. But anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully, I didn't confuse you, but the stamp tool is powerful for you to use, and it's good for those that just want to start right away with some great chords and you're not really good at making chords. And then you can use them as references when they're out of the scale and kind of make up chords as you go. You can kind of hear if it sounds good or not in reference to the other notes and the other sounds that you choose. So it's definitely, I'm actually going to start using this more often. I hope this was helpful, and yeah, feel free to explore. Don't be scared of these names. You know, you shouldn't be scared making music. You should be like open to new things and exploring your creative capacity and beyond. So yeah, anyway, make great music, work on this. The more you use it, the more familiar your ear gets with certain chords, and you know what sounds you want to put with what type of chords, and you know what melodies to build on top of them, in the scale. And I just randomly chose notes, and let's just hear what that sounds like. Just real quick, real quick. It doesn't sound very good. Anyway, you get the idea. You can build melodies on top of the chords and in the bass area. Let me delete those. So, but anyway, you get the idea. Again, it's been DJ Phanatic Beats, content contributor for liveoffbeats.com. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at DJ Phanatic or Instagram at DJ Phanatic Beats. Keep making dope music. Explore these chords. Stamp tool is quick right here. Use that, or the drop down, but it's quick to use that. Faster to use that. So anyway, enjoy. Peace.